Okay, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these YouTube parts. And we have a weird day and time this week for the live stream. I have to go somewhere with my daughter this weekend, so I couldn't do it on Friday. So anyway, that's why we're here today. So welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know, all the links to find my stuff is down in the info below here. nutritiondetective.com is the main website, and members.nutritiondetective.com is the Love Your Liver program, the infamous. So we do have super chats open today. If you want to get priority questions answered once I go through this initial information part, and it'll be fun going through this initial thing, because it's just things when you look at things from the angles that we do, things become terribly obvious in terms of the bad information that's coming out that is negatively affecting everyone, just about everyone, except for the people who are here going after the truth underneath it all. So someone on Twitter sent me an article today because I was commenting. This is an aside here. This is not in the topic of the day. But I was saying, when mainstream medicine and conventional medicine and government medicine are all agreeing on something, you should run the other way. Well, what are they all agreeing on right now? What are they all pushing? What is everybody saying? Oh, the evidence is irrefutable and you should be doing this. They're all talking about vitamin D supplements, right? Because they've demonized the sun. Now, too much sun, if you're still vitamin A toxic, is not good for your skin. Sunburns are bad. That's evidence of toxicity in your skin that's getting crispy fried. But vitamin D is, I've gone over this in my big Twitter thread. Vitamin D was studied as a genocidal tool, to be used as a genocidal tool in South Africa. Vitamin D is sold in blocks as second-level rat poison, to be used if the Coumadin and warfarin blocks don't work. Vitamin D is the only supplement that Fauci recommends, and you can look that up. He said it on an Instagram live. He said the only supplement worth taking is vitamin D. So if you like him, you can follow his advice. And now today, or was it yesterday? Let me put this link in there from Newsweek. I'm trying to find the actual link to the Newsweek article. Let me go find it on my Twitter because I want the direct link. This was sent to me by someone I know. There it is. I want it on newsweek.com. Why being deficient in vitamin D could ruin your body. Newsweek cares about you. So does your government. So does mainstream conventional research. And so do all the big, huge name alternative people. They are all agreeing on something. You should be scared of that thing. They have talked about putting vitamin D into the water supply. What else do they put into the water supply? They are now putting vitamin D into some sports drinks, energy drinks. They fortify foods with it. They already force you to eat it. You should be very scared of this thing. So when Newsweek puts out an article, I just saw somebody else respond to my Twitter and said, there's a bunch of lefty doctors saying vitamin D is bad. And I was like, show me these people, because I'm not aware of them. There are very few people out there speaking poorly of vitamin D supplements. And he said, and they say the sun is bad. And I'm like, we already know all the wrong people are saying the sun is bad. Here's the thing about the sun. Let me just be real quick with this. When you have toxicity in your skin, which is where, if you didn't know, when people get vitamin A toxic, if they get carotenoid toxic, they tend to turn yellow or orange. Where are they putting their vitamin A? In their skin. I've had quotes before. I've tried to find the quote before, but if you go and you watch liposuction videos, or there was another doctor who was quoted on the internet. We had the quote at one point, but he was saying, I can tell when a woman eats really healthy because when I do her liposuction, the fat comes out orange. So not only does the skin turn yellowish orange, but the fat turns yellowish orange. So where are you storing this vitamin A? In your skin. Vitamin A is toxic. When you have too much vitamin A in your skin, you will very easily burn. It is well known that photophobia and photosensitivity of the skin are related to vitamin A toxicity. Like when people take Accutane, it makes their eyes they can get burned extremely easily, and their eyes get very sensitive to the sun. Funny thing, birth control pills raise vitamin A in the blood. Birth control pills also increase the conversion of carotenoids into vitamin A, into retinol, which if you were to believe the alternative people out there, they'd say this is an amazing thing. And as far as I know, birth control pills don't help health. They only ruin it. So anyway, birth control pills raise vitamin A, and it's well known that birth control pills make women more sensitive to the sun. Are you following me here? So getting burned when you have excess toxins in your skin is a bad idea. Does that make sense? So those of you who are pushing sun too hard and you're getting burned and you're getting sun damage on your skin because you think you're detoxing vitamin A faster, you're doing too much and it's going to cause you problems. Okay? We do see age spots disappear. We do see other skin problems disappear with time, but don't make things worse in the process. If you are seeing sun damage from whatever you're doing, UVA, UVB, tanning bed, spurty, outside, if you are seeing sun damage or you are feeling significantly worse after your sun exposure, you're doing too much. And do I like sunscreens? No, I hate sunscreens. I never put them on. I use clothing to cover my skin if I'm out in the sun, because clothing doesn't put toxic things into my bloodstream, which if you've seen the research on sunscreen, every single toxic thing that was in the sunscreen that they put on 24 hours later showed up in the blood. If you put it on your skin, it's going into your blood. Okay? For better or worse. Your skin doesn't discriminate between toxic stuff or non-toxic stuff on your skin. Neither does your gut. So the general rule, especially for you ladies with your makeups, but you guys with your Axe body sprays or whatever, if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, don't put it on your skin. And if you decide to put something on your skin that you say, well, I wouldn't eat it, but I got to use it. Well, you don't have to. You're choosing to. And if you put it on your skin, accept that you are poisoning yourself to some extent. It'd be like many people understand that alcohol is not good for them and they still choose to do it. Okay. I only want people to have the information that they know that it's bad for them and that they're choosing to do something bad for them. As long as you know, I don't care what you do. I just want you to have the information so that you're not deluded by the fact that people are going, 1 glass of wine a day is healthy for you. No, it's not. Don't delude yourself on the billions of dollars of the alcohol industry spending money to fake studies or to skew statistics so that you believe that it's good for you, so you keep up their industry. I was thinking of something the other day about the oncology industry, the cancer industry, the medical industry. How many billions of dollars are in that industry? Let me see if I can. Oncology industry. Let's see. So when your doctor tells you, or your parents are going to the cancer doctor, which if you haven't seen a video called How Doctors Die, let me see if I can find it. How Doctors Die video. Let me put that link in the chat. Where is it? I think this is it. How doctors die. It's not like the rest of us, but it should be. It's not a video. Yeah, here, let me put this link in there. Doctors don't tend to choose cancer treatments when they're going to die. What do they know that's different? What have they seen? What do they get to see every day? And then why would they not choose their very own tools? Maybe they understand that they don't help and they make things worse. And why not live your life? If you had really bad cancer, why not just live your life feeling all right until things get bad, instead of feeling like complete dog shite the entire time? My buddy's watching his dad go through it, and he's like, his quality of life, he has no quality of life, but they're trying to give him a couple more months of this no quality of life. So what did I find? The 2020 Oncology Market Outlook. I'll put this link in there. Here's the quote. Furthermore, oncology therapeutics accounted for $143 billion in branded pharmaceutical sales in 2019, approximately 20% of global pharmaceutical sales. Analyst consensus figures indicate a robust 12% compound annual growth rate, and global oncology therapeutics sales are forecasted to hit $250 billion by 2024. $250 billion, $250 billion. Tell me, do you think they have enough money to pay off some scientists to make up some data? What do you think? The other one here was saying, according to Precedence Research, so right, they said 250 billion in 2024. That's pretty close now. Well, I'll just read the title here. Oncology market size to hit US $581.25 billion by 2030. It's going to more than double by 2030. What are they saying about cancer? Are they helping it? Do they want to help it? How many cancer charities have solved anything about cancer? Built like $500 billion. I want you to think about this. When somebody, let's say there were actually good people out there who were not controlled opposition, who really had the information that could fix things. How much money does a hitman cost, do you think? So for all of those of you who think there's like really big time people out there speaking poorly of big pharma and they're really sticking it to big pharma, $500 billion could buy a lot of hitmen. It doesn't take them that much. If they want somebody gone, they're gone. If they were an ex-government employee and they're now supposedly a whistleblower, if they wanted them gone, they'd be gone. So if they are here to specifically promote a certain side of things, so that they have two sides, because they always need two sides, right? You always got to have vegan and you always got to have carnivore. You always got to have super low fat, like the 80-10-10 vegans, and you got to have the keto people. You have to have Republicans. You have to have Democrats. They have to have both sides covered. They need to control both sides. This is why, for those of you who think I'm going to get big, they will never let me get big. And if I got big, I wouldn't be around much longer. Key thing to remember, key thing, is if the mainstream really ever wanted somebody to truly disappear, like, I don't know, let's say Alex Jones. Let's say, for those of you who think that he got canceled, You know what they'd really do to somebody? The credit card companies would cancel them. If the credit card companies have not canceled anybody, they didn't get canceled. They did not ever get canceled. Cut off their money supply? What do you think they're going to do in the future with CBDCs? How can they cancel people they don't like? Oops, your money's gone. So anyway, Newsweek says vitamin D, you need your vitamin D. Newsweek says it, Fauci says it. Big studies are saying that you need it for COVID. If it's all lining up, you better run. Okay, billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. The vitamin D industry, I've been over this. Vitamin D is made by pharma subsidiaries, small ones, because it's generic now. Vitamin D is made by pharma. Newsweek is pushing it. Fauci's pushing it. Everybody's pushing it. It's used in rat poison. Put it together. Okay? So next week, I've decided, I found the article. People were talking about scurvy and sailors' diets. You know, the old story we're told about vitamin C and sailors' diets. What I'm going to do is next week, next topic, I'm going to go over sailors' diets and show you how they were extremely high in vitamin A and they were extremely toxic, and how things like oatmeal were recommended to prevent scurvy. Those of you who are in the Love Your Liver program will understand how if I'm saying a diet was very high in vitamin A and then people got supposedly scurvy from it, and then oatmeal helped keep sailors healthier, you'll understand what's in oatmeal that would have kept them healthier, considering their terrible diets, because they were terrible. So we'll go over that next week. Okay. Now, let me find, where was the stuff I was going to go over? Okay, so what we're going to go over today, birth defects. This is, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let me just double check that I didn't miss anything. Oh, wow, you guys really went on so okay, yeah, I'll get to your super chats, Ramon, for sure. Ramon's our regular super chat guy. And I see the question about the baby formula. Oh, that's a topic. That's a hard topic. That's an almost, I don't want to say impossible topic, but I found one that I thought was probably the best. I mean, you got to realize, we'll get into that, but infant formula is like you're picking the best of the worst. Everybody, they regulate infant formulas, they regulate dog foods, they regulate cat foods, and people are like, why can't I find a low vitamin A cat food, dog food, infant formula? They won't allow it. They'll make sure that there's vitamin D in there. They'll make sure that there's vitamin A in there. They'll make sure there's copper in there. They'll make sure there's manganese in there. Funny thing we're going to go over today. What I'm going to show you quickly, I'm going to try to do it quickly in the research, is that neural tube defects are caused by various toxins that we purposely try to minimize in our diet, because they're all causing the same problem. The same problem is rooted in the liver and in the deficiencies that it causes. One of them, very namely, is folate. So just remember the term neural tube defects as we go through this. Okay? So let's get started. I just want to go over this one paper from The Lancet to start off. Here's the paper, Metal Mining and Birth Defects, a case control study in Lubu. That might not be the whole title, but they cut off the title. So where was it? Widespread environmental contamination caused by mining of copper and cobalt. Cobalt is the key mineral in vitamin B12. That's why they call it cobalamin. Has led to concerns about the possible association between birth defects and exposure to several toxic metals in southern Katanga, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Okay, so let's go down. There was a good part here. Let me find the next one. Here it is. So this one paragraph is really important. So I want you to pay attention. Maternal, that's motherly, maternal exposure to lead during pregnancy has been associated with congenital abnormalities among offspring, including cardiac malformations. Okay, we're just moving on. Exposure to other trace elements that are associated with modern industrial processes. I don't know, is that like including water pipes, maybe copper water pipes, and are absorbed from cigarette smoke, such as cadmium and chromium. Chromium's not an essential mineral, by the way, were also reported to increase the likelihood of birth defects and possibly in humans. Here we go. Remember how they have to always start it. They always have to start it with the apologetics. Copper is an essential element required in trace concentrations for normal physiology. That's what they say. Small case control studies reported greater copper and lead concentrations among mothers who had an elective abortion because of a neural tube defect and greater placental manganese concentrations in babies with a neural tube defect. A suggestive association was found between increased placental mercury concentrations, mostly because of maternal seafood consumption, and higher risk of neural tube defects in offspring from a Chinese population. And then they add at the end, generally, very little is known about the effects of prenatal metal exposure on neonatal outcomes, newborn outcomes. They just put in the same category of neural tube defect causers copper, lead, manganese, mercury from seafood consumption at that. What do we know about especially toxic metals, the known toxic metals, the widely accepted toxic metals? They cause what's called cholestasis or liver injury, which is when your bile, your toxic bile, the most toxic fluid in your entire body, goes backwards into your blood, various ways. They just put copper and manganese in that same category. Can we go into the literature and find out that copper causes cholestasis or liver injury? Yes. Can we go into the research and find that manganese causes cholestasis, aka liver injury, toxic bile in the blood? Yes. So all of those things, we now have copper, manganese, lead, mercury, cause neural tube defects, and they all cause liver injury and cholestasis. Let's just go. So what's the one vitamin you're told not to take too much of during pregnancy, ladies? You know this. It's vitamin A. Here's the crazy thing. Folks, if we know that too much vitamin A can cause babies to come out horribly with terrible birth defects, why do we not think it's poison in adults? And then you'll hear the dose makes the poison, right? No, the symptoms of the poison are determined by the dose. So just because the mother's bigger and not in the middle of forming things doesn't mean that it's not hurting her as well. So, vitamin A and neural tube birth defects. Let me find the keywords I want here. Thus, the available evidence is consistent with the existence of a common teratogenic, that's birth defect causing, mechanism by which natural and synthetic retinoids, those are vitamin A compounds, affect the development of cephalic neural crest cells and their derivatives, and perhaps interfere with the closure of the neural tube. There is an entire section by the, let me put this link in there. There's an entire section on the Teratology Society website, a group that specializes in trying to prevent birth defects. And they specifically, let me find this. I've posted this before. Where is it? There it is. Oh, come on. You guys gotta. These websites that don't update their security certificates. Come on. Come on, guys. Oh, I'm not going to find this quickly. Wait, now it's birthdefectsresearch.org. Let me see if I can find this. They say in their stuff, let me see if I can find it. So here, I'll put this link in there. The Teratology Society position paper, recommendations for vitamin A use during pregnancy. So that's in there now. Women in their reproductive years should be informed that the excessive use of vitamin A shortly before and during pregnancy could be harmful to their babies. The National Research Council's recommended dietary allowance for vitamin A during pregnancy is 1,000 retinol equivalents, which is equivalent to 3,300 IUs as retinol, or 5,000 units of vitamin A obtained from the typical American diet as a combination of retinol and carotenoids, e.g., beta carotene. The next line. So they just said 3,300 to 5,000 IUs. Okay. Continuing their next sentence. An average balanced diet contains approximately 7,000 to 8,000 IUs of vitamin A derived from different sources. They just said that pregnant women should have less vitamin A than the standard American diet. Compare that to the Weston Price folks who are pushing dairy and eggs and liver and cod liver oil. And all these Weston A. Price moms are wondering, why are my kids born with such bad allergies and asthma and all this stuff? Well, I've been over this in past live streams. Okay. But yes, vitamin A causes neural tube defects. Now, I have a video on this channel going over how vitamin A depletes folate. It's fairly straightforward. Okay. We know that vitamin A, which is an alcohol and an aldehyde, retinol is an alcohol, and retinaldehyde, which is what beta carotene turns into. One beta carotene is snipped into two retinaldehydes. Here's a hint, folks. Alcohols and aldehydes are not vitamins. Did you know that B6, pyridoxine, is an alcohol? And your fancy active B6, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, pyridoxaldehyde, you can look it up. Do you actually think alcohols and aldehydes are vitamins? I don't. I think they can slow down detox in certain ways if you take them and make you feel better, and then you think you need them, but they're not helping you. And if you look up B6 toxicity and peripheral neuropathy, you'll find that they lied to you about B vitamins accumulating in the human body, because B6 accumulates in your nerve endings, and if you get too much of it, you get peripheral neuropathy. I just talked to a gentleman on Twitter the other day who got B6 peripheral neuropathy, and you can do it through diet, not just supplements. Go on the B6 toxicity groups on Facebook and ask the people how they got it. It's an alcohol and an aldehyde, just like all the other stuff we're talking about here. That's probably not actually vitamins. Okay. So we added vitamin A to that list. So we don't like vitamin A. We don't like copper. We don't like manganese. We definitely don't like lead or mercury. So let's go into, and vitamin A causes neural tube defects with toxicity. Okay. The New England Journal of Medicine was like, we're not totally sure, but we see how it works in animals, but we're not sure for humans because we'd hate to have everybody eat less vitamin A. That would affect our goals for human infertility in a bad way. So let's go in alcohol. Let's go ethanol, neural tube defects. I put in that link online library. I'm just checking to see that I got this in the yes. Okay. So come on. Well, let's here, I want to find something simple. I'm just going to take the title of this paper because it explains it quick enough. Peptide-mediated protection from ethanol-induced neural tube defects. So why do they tell you not to drink during pregnancy? Because it might cause birth defects. What kind of birth defects? Oh, neural tube defects. So remember how I just told you that vitamin A as an alcohol and an aldehyde depletes folate? What do you think? Alcohol, ethanol, the alcohol depletes also. It's not hard to go into the literature and find out that alcohol depletes folate. Weird. So now here's another fun one. This is one I was just going over the other day. I just looked up on my phone the other day. Let me see if I can find the same study. I don't want to have to look up look at my phone if I don't have to. So here's a quick one. Maternal caffeine consumption. Those of you who still think coffee is like totally okay. Positive associations were observed between spina bifida, central neural tube, that's the neural tube defect, and total caffeine consumption. Well, let's just go look at so if we start thinking, what's caffeine doing? I may have to look at my phone for this one. That's not the one I found earlier. Caffeine consumption was associated with reduced circulating B vitamin concentrations. That this is caffeine consumption and circulating B vitamins in healthy middle-aged men and women. Now, I've been over before. I've talked about how polyphenols in coffee slow down ALDH, and I do believe caffeine slows down ALDH. I'm not going to go find that research right now. I need to find the one that was very specific on caffeine and folate. Did I already go over maternal caffeine consumption? Yes. Yes. Okay, so where was that other one? Here we go. Let me find it. Let's see. Here we go. Association between serum folate levels and caffeinated beverage consumption in pregnant women in Chiba, the Japan Environment and Children's Studies. Here's the conclusion. Considering the negative associations of caffeine and tannin levels, tannins are what kind of compound again, folks? Oh, they're polyphenols known to slow down ALDH. Okay. The negative associations of caffeine and tannin levels with serum folate levels. So that means if serum folate's higher, caffeine intake and tannin levels would be lower, and vice versa. So if you have more coffee, caffeine, tannins, you have lower folate. That's what a negative association means. What does folate deficiency cause? Neural tube defects. So we now see that caffeine, we know caffeine depletes folate. Alcohol depletes folate. Vitamin A depletes folate. What was the other one we were talking about? Why am I brain farting right now? Vitamin A, caffeine, alcohol, and it's just slipping my mind right now. What are we talking about? Got the vitamin A. Oh, and folate deficiency. That's what I meant. Folate deficiency. So folate deficiency will cause neural tube defects. Vitamin A is known to cause neural tube defects. Alcohol is known to cause neural tube defects. And too much caffeine is known to cause neural tube defects. And they are all connected. How are they connected? They damage the liver. They slow down ALDH. They cause bile leakage. Okay? So just wanted to go through that. Oh, yeah, I saw somebody post there. Those of you who want this information to get out to more people, obviously you can go share the video. But if you're here right now in the live chat, click out of the chat, X out of the chat, and go like and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Well, if you're in the chat, you're subscribed to the channel. But like and subscribe to the channel and then leave a comment. However short you want to leave it, leave a comment. If you're watching this video later, that really helps the computers to know that people should watch this, that it should share it. So let me get to the super chats now that we spent 45 minutes on that. So let me find the first one. Yeah, okay, so Ryan's question. Is there a formula for infants you'd recommend? Obviously, only if breast milk supply isn't there, obviously. Thanks in advance. So this is not a judgment on people. This is the reality. I do believe that toxicity and deficiencies, especially bile acid leakage, which is normal in pregnancy, can cause poor milk supply. I absolutely believe that's what was happening in my family before I knew about all this. There was a lot of vitamin A and copper toxicity going on. And there was a milk supply problem. Now, that doesn't mean everybody, this is an important thing. The same symptoms don't show up in every person. This is the problem that people can't wrap their heads around, is they want every single, like if you have vitamin A toxicity, it should show up with the same symptoms in every person. That's not how any of this works. You can have two people go out and start a running program and they both come back with different injuries. Does this make sense? Like, you're not built the same as everybody else. Built different. You're built different than everybody else. You have different histories. You have different toxicities. You have different deficiencies. You have different genetics. So everybody's stuff shows up different. Okay? I'm not going to go into details on this. But the last time I looked, there is, oh, come on now. Okay. I think it was. Oh, come on. Now I would, oh, gosh. I want to say somebody like maybe Hope or Pierre, if you want to go on my Amazon list and see if it was I think it was Earth's Best Organic. I mean, first of all, if we're going to, well, here, let me just say from Hope, because Hope's a super fan here. Hope's just recent comment. I did a lowish vitamin A diet when pregnant with my third. I produced tons of milk when he was born, more so than with my other 4 children, like enough for 2 babies or more. I want to let you ladies and you men who want to have legacies know that all the women who have worked with me, I do like for people to, if you're going to do the low vitamin A diet or you're going to do the vitamin A detox, the Love Your Liver program, I do really like for women to do 6 months of it before they get pregnant to get through the earliest stages because I care. I don't want people pushing detox too hard and potentially causing a problem for their unborn baby. So I suggest 6 months of detox before you try to get pregnant. But every woman who has done this, who has gotten pregnant later and has had kids before, has said that their pregnancy and nursing after they've done the vitamin A detox was the easiest of all of them. And oftentimes that child is the healthiest of all their children. This is very real. A lot of women notice, and dads, if you pay attention, they often notice that as they have each kid is like sicker than the one before it. This is a very common pattern. If you haven't paid attention to it, it's a super common pattern. And why is that? Because the mother was toxic to begin with. And then she goes, let's say you go through pregnancy and you're going through, meds like Pitocin and epidurals, and you're doing other meds along the way, and you get antibiotics, and you go and do, whatever people are doing, medications, healthy diets, and they screw themselves up more, and they're becoming more toxic and more toxic liver leakage with each kid. And this is why each kid is sicker than the one before it. There's reasons for all of this. Actually, Hope was reminding me, that copper may deplete folate. Thank you for pointing that out. Here it is. Effect of long-term high copper intake on the concentrations of plasma homocysteine and B vitamins in young men. So this is long-term in real people, not women, but men. Results: the long-term high copper intake resulted in small but significant decreases in plasma concentrations of total homocysteine and folate. So now we've added, wait, just to have fun, let's go do manganese. Let's go do manganese folate, PubMed. I bet we won't find anything. No. So now what do, wait, did I find copper and, hold on. I did find copper and neural tube. Yeah, I already did the copper. And so now we have copper depletes folate, and copper is associated with neural tube defects. Are you guys following? Like, this is all in the research. This should not be, I should not have had to have been the first person bringing this up. And I'm not tooting my horn. I'm saying, why was everybody else failing on this? This is in the this is not hard. At least it's not, it's not hard for me. And I don't understand why nobody figured this out before. It's disappointing is what it is. But I guess God put me here for a specific reason. So I think it was, did somebody get back to me on the Earth's Best? Did somebody do that? Thank you, Pierre, for that link. This is always a fun thing. I think it's the very last thing on the list. Oh, this is okay. So babies only organic lacto relief with DHA and ARA. This is crazy. I don't know why it puts me into this. Anyway, that was it. That was the one that I found. There's, I don't know. They could have changed it. At least if you're going to do formula, if you have to do formula, do it organic. And definitely don't substitute or what should I say, add to with goat milk. Goat milk is higher in vitamin A than dairy milk. If you were going to do milk, try to get raw milk. Do your best to get raw milk. If you got to do that, I do think and it's a tough situation. Don't get me wrong. It might be, I know my ex-wife, she was using I think one of those herbal teas, the pre-made ones that was to help mother's milk tea or something like that. Now, do I think that what that's doing, you're trying to keep the baby alive and you're trying to give it breast milk. So doing some herbs to help promote breast milk production could be good. Funny thing that we talk about here is you can use toxins to suppress detox to reduce symptoms. What's one of the things that they use to increase milk production? Beer. Are you following? Alcohol, a known poison, which slows down detox because you can't detox at the same time you're intoxing. So you start intoxing some beer and your liver slows down and you get less bile in your blood, but it's temporary and it's not in a good way. But short term, you can make more milk. You following? This is how it works. So a lot of the things in the supplement world that people think are good for them because they have effects. Remember, Viagra has effects. Caffeine has effects. Pharmaceutical drugs have effects. That doesn't mean they're essential. That doesn't mean they're essential. So, but that's at least the Earth's Best one was, I thought, or not the Earth's Best. It was the did I close that window? No, I think the last time I looked, babies only organic lacto relief with DHA and ARA was the one that if I had to choose the best of the worst, just absolutely make sure it's organic. Use as little as you need to. Try to do breast milk as much as you can. Try to not have the mother eating really high vitamin A foods. Here, wait. So let's say the mother was really vitamin A toxic. Let's just theorize. And copper toxic. Let's say she had a history of taking birth control pills and she's just a modern day American woman. So here, I don't know this. I'm going to go look because this all fits together. So let's say a mom was vitamin A toxic and a mom was copper toxic. And let's say she's had her fun in the past, hopefully not while she's pregnant, with caffeine and with alcohol. She should be somewhat depleted in folate, right? So then in theory, I should be able to go and look in the research and find that folate potentially increases breast milk production. Now, I want to say something about folates, supplemental folates out there for you folks. Never take folic acid. And this is my suggestions. Let's say I was talking to a family member. Never take folic acid. Never take MTHF. I don't like it. I just had to get somebody off of it. I don't like it. You can do it if you want. If you feel amazing on it, go ahead and do it. But these mega doses of MTHF, I don't think they're productive long term. And you can tell me later whether it worked long term. It's not, mega doses of B vitamins are not actually fixing the root cause of anything. They may be band-aiding things, but they're not. Just imagine if you needed these mega doses of B vitamins, this would mean it was probably genetic. It's either toxicity or genetic. If it was genetic, all your ancestors who didn't have supplements would have died already. Or then you might say, which would make sense, well, they weren't as toxic as we are today. And then we go, oh, so what's the root cause of their mega dose B vitamin needs then? If they weren't as toxic back then and they didn't need the mega doses of B vitamins back then, or else they would have died and you wouldn't be here. Because if you're saying it's genetics, all you epigenetics people, then what they just admitted was that it's toxicity. So we need to fix the toxicity, and then they wouldn't need the mega doses of B vitamins. Do you follow? This is how this all works. So let's just go look at, let's go see folate, breast milk production, PubMed. I wonder if we won't find anything on this. They have a lot of stuff about folate in breast milk. Let's see. Oh, here's a paper. So I'm going to guess that they have references to back this up. I'm not going through the references, but just the first two sentences. An adequate intake of folate during pregnancy, lactation, and infancy is essential for maternal and child health and normal growth. Higher folate requirements during pregnancy, which is when I'll explain this in a second, and lactation are difficult to meet by increased intake of folate-rich foods products only. Don't ever take folic acid again. Supplementation with folic acid is recommended not only to meet the higher requirements, but also to prevent adverse pregnancy outcomes such as neural tube defects. Okay. Now, somebody will say, well, it makes sense that a pregnant woman, a nursing woman needs more folate because she's eating for two. But it's also, let me tell you something, ladies, just so you know why you feel like crap during pregnancy is because pregnancy, the increased hormones hit your liver really hard. You get more liver injury, cholestasis. You leak more toxic bile into your blood and you feel awful. If you have more toxins in your blood, like vitamin A, copper, coming out of that's been stored in your liver for decades, what would that deplete? Folate. Yeah, there's Stephanie Seneff's work where she talked about down in Brazil in South America, they had too much glyphosate and they were starting to see all the birth defects, the neural tube defects that were exactly the same as vitamin A toxicity neural tube defects, which would then, what does vitamin A deplete? Folate. Are you following? We have a chicken or the egg thing here. Definitely. But what we're starting to find is that a lot of these toxins in the body deplete folate. And what did we go over a couple of episodes ago? What is it? I do think folate may be necessary to run ALDH. which is aldehyde dehydrogenase. What does retinoic acid slow down? That form of vitamin A slows down ALDH. What does alcohol slow down over time, especially as you get older? We've seen it in old mice studies. Slows down ALDH. What does caffeine slow down? ALDH. I'm not going to look up copper right now, but I have very little doubt. These are all patterns in the research. People can say, no, it's not. Well, you don't have a better explanation. So that was a long infant formula answer. So now we have Ramon. Ramon says, what is your take on naltrexone? I've created alcohol dependency and want to quit completely. How would you go about it? Seeing your PCP tomorrow. Thanks. I have a hard time believing that taking one drug is the solution to a poisoning by another drug. And I'm going to call alcohol a drug, right? It's a drug in its purest form. So I have not looked into naltrexone is typically used for opioid dependence. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with it in terms of alcohol dependence. Naltrexone is designed to reduce and suppress cravings for alcohol or opiate drugs. Okay. So you're putting a drug in your system, and it says here, binding to the opioid receptors in the person's brain. Well, here's a weird thing. We know alcohol depletes folate, right? But we also know that poisons tend to make you want more of them. So here's the strange thread that comes out of that is you may want to work on folate, and that may help. Let's see here, trying to figure out what word. Hold on. Come on. Oh, here's a funny thing. They're talking about alcohol peat to sit in the liver. The liver prioritizes alcohol so it gets it out of the blood so you don't die from acetaldehyde poisoning. So that when you read studies where it says ethanol depletes vitamin A in the liver, it didn't deplete anything. It just left the liver, went into the bile, and then circulated in your blood because the blood vitamin A goes up with alcohol consumption. So it didn't leave. It's still in you. And then as your body detoxes the alcohol and the acetaldehyde, the vitamin A that's circulating around your blood just goes right back into your liver. It's just a game of like cat and mouse. Nothing left. Alcohol does not deplete vitamin A. If you're out there and you've believed somebody who I came up with this, I came up with that bad idea too. If you know somebody who's saying they're going to drink alcohol because of solvent properties or what, it's not that. It's bad for your liver. It doesn't deplete your liver of vitamin A. It just pushes it out for a little while and then it comes right back. But in terms of naltrexone, I would definitely be working on the various things. I would be working more on mental emotional approaches, Ramon. And I would be working on if you are really alcohol dependent and you get convulsions or other stuff, if you quit cold turkey, then I would do some sort of weaning. I would definitely not be pushing detox too hard, like soluble fiber during this time. You might do some, but I would definitely do not push detox too hard. I would get on the basics of what we tend to do here. Things like topical magnesium, potassium, zinc, selenium, molybdenum, which the zinc, selenium, and molybdenum for a lot of people is covered in the keystone minerals. You can find those at the shop on the website, the nutritiondetective.com website in the shop. That can cover a lot of people's basics really well. And I would, like when I tell, like I'm going to write a thread on Twitter sometime soon about weaning off of coffee. I think weaning off of coffee is much easier than going cold turkey. Our bodies are kind of addicted to this. Like, think about it. If there's a thing called rebound scurvy with vitamin C, everybody thinks vitamin C is such a wonderful thing. There's a thing called rebound scurvy. And what this is when people have been taking high doses of vitamin C for an extended period of time, they suddenly stop the vitamin C completely, and then they get symptoms of scurvy. Now, this makes absolutely no sense unless you understand toxic bile theory. They've been taking high doses of vitamin C for years, and all of a sudden they stop and they get symptoms of scurvy, which are symptoms of vitamin A toxicity. I tell you that high doses of vitamin C suppress your bile dumping and production. It also changes the bile recipe. I have that research. I just found that research showing vitamin C changes the composition of the bile, changes the recipe of the bile. So you stop suppressing bile production, and the bile recipe goes back to the old recipe. And then people get symptoms of scurvy, which are symptoms of vitamin A toxicity. Go look up a paper called Hypervitaminosis A and Scurvy. And they showed in dogs that vitamin A toxicity symptoms are exactly the same as scurvy symptoms. So they took vitamin C for years. A deficiency doesn't show up in 2 days. What happened was the block was taken off the liver, and all that toxicity that had not been being processed and not been being dumped is rushing out of the liver. So what do you think happens? What did I tell you that alcohol does? Alcohol slows down detox. You have to stop intoxing as much as you can so you can start detoxing more. So all of a sudden, let's say somebody's really on alcohol and they stop suddenly. Then the brakes, the blockage is taken out of their liver bile production, and they start dumping bile. And it's leaking back into the bloodstream because guaranteed an alcoholic has toxic leaky bile, lots of it. So then those of us who know what toxic bile going anywhere and everywhere in the body causes, you look at this list of alcohol withdrawal symptoms: anxiety, right? Everybody here, no, sweating, nausea, that's bile in your stomach, irritability, that's just an angry liver, and an increased sensitivity to light. I just talked about the vitamin A connection. Convulsions may occur within 2 to 4 days. Why would it take 2 to 4 days, folks? Because the bile is slowly building up in the blood over days. And then once it hits a certain threshold, then it causes convulsions. Those toxic bile studies by the Rockefellers. Let's just go see toxic bile. What was it? Rockefeller. And I believe alcohol withdrawal, if it's bad enough, could put somebody into a coma. So the papers from the Rockefeller studies on the toxicity of bile. I do know that they put the rats into comas. Let me get to the bottom of this paper. I want to see their conclusions. Our experiments further demonstrate that while the heart's action rapidly fails under the influence of bile, the heart's action rapidly fails under the influence of bile. Well, I don't know if y'all have seen me here on this live stream going over the demonstrated liver injury from certain injections. Here it is. Liver injury following a certain injection administration, the D-Lin experience. So let's just say certain injections were causing liver injury, which is cholestasis, which is toxic leaky bile. And then the Rockefellers told us back in, when was this? Well, let me just read it again before I go find the year. Our experiments further demonstrate that while the heart's action rapidly fails under the influence of bile, this was 1900, come on, show me the year. Let's go back. 1905 was this paper. They injected bile into these animals. And now we have studies on the toxicity of bile 2. 1906, the toxic effects of bile upon the central nervous system and the elimination of strychnine through the bile in nephrectomized animals. Come on, I gotta click through multiple links to get this. Here's the quote. As in most of the experiments, the injections caused the death of the animal. It was ascribed to the toxic effect of the bile. So, let me go see the last part of this one. Tetany. Oh, tetany. You mean like almost very similar to convulsions? Tetany being like stiffening up, right? Well, convulsions. Oh, wait, there it is. Oh, here we go. Let me read this paragraph. I'm excited now. Where is it? There it is. In some animals, indeed, all the bile from the common duct causes in comparatively small doses only coma and paralysis. It should be added that the flow of bile in these animals was slow, reduced, and the quantity collected was small as compared with that obtained from animals, the bile of which produced hyperesthesia, like feeling too much, and convulsions. All of these facts considered, it may be stated that stagnant bile produces depressing symptoms. Our experiments have demonstrated that not only all kinds of bile contain the tetanic element, but also that this and the depressing element are present simultaneously. In stagnant bile, though it surely contains both elements, it is apparently the depressing element essentially which manifests its effects. What are the mutual relations of these two toxic agents? From our experiments with the addition of strychnine, we may answer this very difficult question as follows. 1, that the depressing effect of large doses of bile cannot be reduced or visibly modified by the addition of any dose of strychnine. 2, that the depressing effect of doses of bile in quantities near the toxic minimum can be promptly modified by a subminimum dose of strychnine. Wait, you can give a toxin to suppress the bile? What a concept. A, this effect can be neutralized or annihilated. Whence a normal condition results. They give them, they injected them with toxic bile, and then they gave them a toxin, strychnine, and the normal condition results. Like, do y'all understand how important this is? This is like changing the entire paradigm of medicine. B, the effect can be overcome to such an extent as to bring out the opposite or tetanic effect. You could have so much bile, you could overcome the toxin. And then what do you got to do to suppress it more? You got to take more toxin. That by the increase of the depressing element, the positively tetanic effect of strychnine plus the tetanic element in the bile can A, be neutralized, i.e. reduced to normal, or B, made to produce coma and paralysis. So what we have here is some people try taking in toxins. It just says that you can take in toxins and suppress the bile. This is the duration paradox for a lot of people. Or where some people, like let's say some of you out there, have tried to take some things to suppress your bile and you feel worse. Didn't they just say that both could happen? The Rockefellers are telling you toxic bile theory back in 1905 and 1906. 3, that by the increase of the depressing element, the positively tetanic effect of strychnine. Oh, wait, I already read that one. These observations lead us to assume in the first place that the depressing and tetanic elements are exact antagonists and that their joint effect is that of an algebraic sum. You can add them together. So anyway, that's enough of that one. They told us toxic bile theory back in 1905, 1906. Weird, the Rockefellers, who are kind of in charge of pharmaceutical medicine, they knew this, and yet we don't ever hear about it anymore. They might have thought it was useful back then. Maybe it is useful to them today. And what if I were to tell you that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are really good at shutting down bile, like we were just talking about, which is why they shut down the flu and the virus so quickly. Does your liver ever recover? I've got research on them showing it slows down ALDH for sure. Now you got people taking them like multivitamins. Anyway, but naltrexone, I don't, Ramon, if somebody was going to mess with that, I would tell them the smallest dose that gives, I would be doing the smallest dose and I would be getting the hell off of it as quickly as possible if it were me. And I would try to do other approaches. I would try to work on nutrition first. And you can wean if you can take a pill every day, you can wean. You may have to have somebody else regulate your intake. Somebody gives you a specific amount of it every day and you're decreasing that over time. Then you won't be dropped off a cliff like cold turkey. But you got to have somebody you trust. Will's super chat, if you think about it, vitamin D is just vitamin A and a smiley face. I'm not going to get deep into that one here. That's a bit too far for most people. But again, the mainstream and alternative, they all love their vitamin A and they all love their vitamin D, and you have retinol and cholecalciferol and calcitriol, and it's just a weird coincidence that they're all alcohols. So, oh, Hope's mom is here. Hi, Hope's mom. Okay, N Rustica says, I'm helping a 31-year-old man. This is a super chat. I'm helping a 31-year-old man during his first week not drinking alcohol. His ankles are swollen and doesn't seem to be absorbing the food they eat. I gave him B complex 100. Anything else we can try to add or keep in mind? I'm not a fan of B complexes generally. Here's the reality of our poisoning ourselves. Whether we did it on purpose or whether it was done to us, whether we were born with it, doesn't matter. The poisons are in them. You can store, here, let me find it. Ethyl fatty acid ester. Ethanol. Fatty acid ethyl esters are non-oxidative ethanol metabolites that have been implicated as mediators of alcohol-induced organ damage. Fatty acid ethyl ester. You ever heard of retinol esters? That's how the body stores vitamin A in the liver. Ethyl fatty acid esters are alcohol made to store in the liver. And people are like, but the body stores vitamin A in the liver because it wants to have it for later. No, it's storing it there because binding it to an ester and getting it out of the system as a whole is better. It's still bad. It's still very bad, but it's still better than having it run around your system. The body is choosing the least damaging. It's choosing the slow death over the quick death. Your body stores alcohol in your liver too, and they can look for these fatty acid ethyl esters later on and to see if somebody was drinking. So this person, if they have been drinking a lot, they have alcohol stored in their liver. Now, the first when I see edema, especially in the ankles, I tend to think of potassium deficiency. That's one of my first go-tos. But you have to be real careful with people who are sick because potassium supplements can be people are very sensitive to potassium supplements, different types, different amounts. But, most everybody can eat bananas or to do some coconut water, but they need to not be gentle with it. Like, I mean, if this person does well with bananas or coconut water, I would, to use a technical term, hit them pretty hard. I wouldn't be like, well, he had half a thing of coconut water today. He got his potassium. No. It's like when people come to me and they're like, I took a 99 milligram potassium pill today. Isn't that good? And I'm like, yeah, that's basically the equivalent of a bite of a banana. Good job. No, you got to hit it harder than that. You're supposed to get like the Institute of Medicine says we're supposed to get 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day as adults. 4,700. A banana's 500. And people run around being like, I had a banana today. I got my potassium. And you're like, okay. 8 more of them and you'll be there. Okay. Copper depletes potassium. Vitamin D supplements deplete potassium. Vitamin A blocks potassium channels. It's in literature. Gosh, do you think potassium's an important thing here too? Yes. Alcohol depletes folate, but if you start throwing in all those B vitamins in the B complex and you're mega dosing them, I don't know that that's good. And most B complexes have several sketchy forms of Bs in them. And they're all going to have B6. It may be something that they just have to, this person is not my client. And this may just be something that they have to ride out. But like I said, most B complexes these days are either going to have folic acid or MTHF in them. What do I use? I use calcium folinate or folinic acid. They're the same thing. It's just folinic acid has to be bound to something, and they typically do that with calcium. And somebody's going to say but what about calcium? It's an insignificant amount of calcium. It's like micrograms. So I'm not concerned about less than 1 milligram of calcium. Calcium folinate or folinic acid. I do not like the methylated stuff. Your body is supposed to control methylation. You're not supposed to shove a bunch of methyl groups from the outside world in, or you will imbalance the system at some point. It may be great at the beginning. I just had a woman try 5-MTHF. The first day or two was great, and by day 4, she was a wreck. And I warned her. And this is she tried, and I was like, she felt good at the beginning. I was like, okay, if that's what you got to do, go for it. And I said, just be ready for it to turn on you. Amazing that I warned her about it turning on her, and then by day 4, it had turned on her. These things work this way. Can I tell you exactly why? No, I just watched the patterns. So yeah, I'm sure, I guaranteed the folate in there is not what I would use. And it's mega dosed, probably. So, yeah, not exactly. I would not be pushing, I would definitely be with this person. I would be getting them lots of meat in their diet. Because how do we bind lots of meat and not an excess of dietary fat, and then some fiber from foods that they know they tolerate well, high potassium foods, high folate foods, but just not too much soluble fiber. Those are things that I'd be thinking of. But yeah, they're probably not absorbing the food they eat because the bile refluxing up into their stomach is shutting down their stomach acid. I don't know. If they're underweight, you got an issue, but if they're overweight, they're not going to starve. Topical magnesium would probably be good. But yeah, it's a hell of a thing, folks. For those of you who are finding this work later in your life, we're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, you got all those decades of toxicity to get rid of. It's not going to be easy. I mean, we can accelerate it by becoming an alcoholic. We can really store up a lot of poisons by becoming an alcoholic. But just remember, alcohol is the most widely accepted, socially acceptable poison, and people will make you feel bad for not ingesting the poison. Let's see, Gabriel, another super chat. If someone has been following low vitamin A for over a year but gets tachycardia from sun exposure, vitamin A being oxidized by the sun, what's the strategy? Gradual exposure over time. So low vitamin A for over a year does not mean you're done. If you haven't seen, for those of you who want to see the timeline of vitamin A detox, watch on this video. There's a video of me and Grant Genereux discussing the timeline of vitamin A detox. And we used to think 2 years, maybe 3. 2 years is for a very lucky few, maybe. 3 years is probably normal minimum, and many are going to be past that. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, tachycardia from sun exposure. So tachycardia is a fast heartbeat from sun exposure. So what are my rules on? Well, the sun and heat are what I used to call, this is an older term, but I used to call them agitators because I didn't know about toxic bile theory back then. But they seem to stir up problems. Well, now that we know toxic bile theory, and if you haven't seen enough of my toxic bile theory yet to understand what I'm talking about, go watch Livestream 71. That's the one that people say is the best overall description of toxic bile theory. The sun and heat and sweating tend to cause a bile dump. Okay? A lot of dumping of bile. I do think the opposite is true. I think cold weather slows it down. So the key thing with sun exposure is here's the rule. If you feel worse after sun exposure, what you did in terms of that sun exposure was either too much or too long in the sun, or it was just too much. Whether it was too hot, whether you're sweating too much for too long, or it's just too bright, or whatever. And so you would reduce your time because you can't really change the sun. So you could reduce your time, or you could go out at a less intense sun period of the day. I think any sun is good sun. I think the whole narrative of you have to go out between this little window of time to make vitamin D, I don't care about that. I don't think that's relevant to what we're trying to do here. I think any sun is good sun. Now, the vitamin A being oxidized from the sun, that would be moving carotenoids, retinoids along the detox pathway, and that might be turning them into retinoic acid. You oxidize carotenoids. I mean, I've been over how oxidizing carotenoids in the skin, there's a study where they put simulated light on a skin sample and it turned carotenoids like beta carotene into retinol esters, which would then go in the bloodstream down to your liver and be immediately stored. So it is moving it out of the skin, but it's going to your liver. I think the big thing for your symptoms is it's just too long and you're dumping bile and you're leaking bile into your bloodstream. You're not done with, There was a woman out there in the early days of this. She thought she was getting vitamin A deficient in 6 months because she didn't feel good on the detox. Now, I've learned a lot of stuff since then, but she was not vitamin A deficient in 6 months. And there's nowhere in the research that suggests that is even close to possible. Funny thing was she went out there making all these accusations, and she had never had a vitamin A test. Not one. So, yeah. You're probably just, and the other thing that the sun does, this is an important thing we have to balance out. You can go look up the vitamin here. I'll do a search on it on PubMed. What is called the vitamin D folate hypothesis. And it talks about skin colors and vitamin. So folate is extremely light sensitive, as in it gets broken down by light very quickly. Oh no, now we have another thing that depletes folate. And then, but the theory is that we do need some amount of sunlight. I'm not sold on vitamin D as the mediator of the sun's benefits. I'm not sold on that at all anymore, just like I'm not sold on virus theory. But I do think we need light. But now we have the vitamin D and folate hypothesis. You have this balance of if you get a lot of light, you're going to deplete your folate, but you'd have more vitamin D. And the opposite would then be true. If you don't get light, you're going to if you don't get light, you're going to have more folate and less vitamin D. So we're in this issue. So it could be that the sunlight was somehow causing a bile dump, but then as we went over, all the things in the bile that would come out and leak into your blood would then deplete folate as well, and then you're also in the sun depleting folate. So we have multiple things here that are working together. So basically, it would be we're going to simplify all of that down to the classic philosophical treatment approach of, doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. Do less sun. I have people who can't even go in the sun because it makes them feel so bad. They can't go in the sun at all. And I say, well, don't do it yet. You're not ready yet. You're too toxic. So that's the simple one on that. Christine is asking if arthritis can be reversed, so can Dupuytren's contracture, right? What can speed up the healing of this condition? There's stuff that I'm working on in the program that I haven't even released to the program yet that I think can speed it up. Certain you're going to have to realize, like Grant Genereux is saying that he feels like his scoliosis is slowly reversing itself. It probably wasn't terrible, but he feels like it's slowly reversing itself. I've talked about, and people have commented about how they think my skull structure, jaw structure is changing. Bony changes are going to, if there are bony changes, they're going to take a long time to change. Now, if we were to talk about scoliosis, I found a study. Let me find this one. I'm sure if you were to ask any orthopedic doctor if diet has anything to do with scoliosis, and they would say no. So we talk about zinc a lot here, right? So here's the paper, zinc status in patients with idiopathic, as in they don't know what caused it, scoliosis. Right? And people will go, but this is a musculoskeletal thing. This doesn't have anything to do with nutrition. Well, where was it? Here's the specific line. A significant decrease as in deficiency of zinc content in back muscles was observed in patients with scoliosis. Huh. But then later they say these results do not suggest that there is a primary zinc deficiency in patients with idiopathic scoliosis. Wait, what? How do they just saw that there's, let's understand scoliosis, right? Do bones move on their own? Do bones just walk around? Do they do things? Do they jump up and down? They don't move. So if bones are out of place, like scoliosis, the muscles did it. Do you understand? So if they go and they see that there's a zinc depletion in the muscles around the spine, do you see? And then if I remember, let me see if I can find it. See if I can find it. There was an online, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. There was a poll online that I found years ago. And it was basically if you had, so people who had celiac disease, it was a poll asking, do you also have scoliosis? And there was a huge correlation. It was like 75% or something, if I recall correctly. So no, I don't have the link on this. I can't find it right now. But huge correlation. We've been over in this live stream before the research showing that when scientists tried to make a model of celiac disease in mice cells, I believe it was, they could not create celiac disease without retinoic acid, aka active vitamin A. They could not create celiac without vitamin A. Okay, so they couldn't create celiac without vitamin A. What does your body need to protect itself from vitamin A toxicity? It needs zinc to make retinol binding protein and to make cellular retinoic acid binding protein, CRABP. Do you see how that all fits together? So can we somehow then theorize that potentially vitamin A toxicity and zinc deficiency are connected to scoliosis in that way? And we have Grant saying his is slowly going away. It's all connected. Bones don't move on their own. So Dupuytren's contracture. Now I have had a gentleman say, what am I thinking of? I've had a gentleman say that with the program and with applications of topical magnesium very regularly, he has corrected his Peyronie's disease, which is a fibrotic, the overbending of the penis. So that's a fibrotic problem, right? He said he corrected that. One of the biggest things that I told him, you need to put topical magnesium on that every day, maybe multiple times a day. Now he said that corrected. He also had, he had trigger finger. He said that was resolving slowly over time. So with Dupuytren's contracture, I do believe there is hope. I have not had anybody fix it specifically yet, because we get so many conditions, and I don't work with everybody. People can do the Love Your Liver program without ever talking to me. And so I don't always know every condition that comes in. But the biggest things that I would, it's the same stuff that we work on with everybody through, the best work, like I say, is I believe done through testing. We test hair and blood for various minerals specifically, and we test for vitamin A and ferritin and stuff like that. I do think these things can be resolved, but bony changes, I think, are years in the making in terms of potentially being able to correct them, the body correcting them. I don't fix it. If you want to say God fixes it, I believe that. but it's the actual the surgery that's happening. If I think of it as the body doing its own surgery. And when you have to surgically change the bone, like think of how long it takes kids to grow. So how long is it going to take to remodel that bone as an adult? It's going to take a while. So there is the contracture part of it, but there's also going to be the bony changes. And that's just going to take a while. And if you're not doing, if hopefully you're on the Love Your Liver program so that you get all that information, and then work, like I'm figuring out new things that we're working on with the folate stuff. This is a huge thing. The folate is a huge thing. As you could see, copper depletes it, vitamin A depletes it, alcohol depletes it, caffeine depletes it. Think of how many people in this world, they use caffeine to help them wake up. They use alcohol to help them chill out after work and help them sleep. Alcohol sleep is terrible sleep. If you don't admit that to yourself, alcoholics sleep terribly. People who drink alcohol on a regular basis, even though they sleep terribly. Let's say they're trying to eat healthy, or they're taking their vitamins and they're getting vitamin A toxic and they're getting copper toxic from, things like birth control pills and copper water pipes, and trying to eat lots of plant-based. And then we wonder why everybody's sick, even the health nuts. You ever notice the pattern of the health nuts being the sickest people you know? Why does that happen? But I take my spirulina and my chlorella and whatever. Poisoning yourself. Okay. So Ramon says, another super chat from Ramon. Thank you everybody for the super chats. I'm sorry if I skipped saying thank you. I'm just trying to get through these quick, so I forgot. So thank you everyone. Thank you Christine for the super chat, and Gabriel, thank you, and N Rustica, thank you, and Will, thank you, and Ramon, thank you for the second time. So thank you everyone. I appreciate them. Ramon said, I tried tapering down alcohol and it works until someone comes around and offers you one. There's a saying that I go by with this, which is don't be there. Now, this is not always easy, but don't be there means like if somebody was an alcoholic, don't go to the bar. Right? That would be like I have a family member who has difficulties with alcohol and cigarettes. What's the worst place that they could go? The bar. Where do they go to hang out with their buddies even after they've quit these things? The bar. And what happens? They get back on the same damn problem stuff. And what's the story I hear? Well, I had a couple drinks and then I felt a cigarette. So basically the gist of it would be, well, this person can quit cigarettes anytime they want. I've seen them quit cigarettes like nothing 3 times before. They quit it like they can quit things. This person I know can quit things anytime they want. And there doesn't even seem to be that much of a withdrawal syndrome with this person. But then they put themselves into situations where they're tempted. The easiest thing to do is to avoid temptations. Let's say you're going to go to a family get-together. You were invited to a family get-together, and everybody's going to be drinking there. For your sake, you might need to not go for a while until you really solidify that you are an alcoholic who's not drinking anymore. The key thing, I do think this is very true from Alcoholics Anonymous, is once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. It's just you're not drinking anymore. I think that's a very important thing because you must know that you will slip back into it if you have a sip. And then you realize how dangerous it is for you to get back in. Because when people relapse, they almost always relapse harder than they used to. When people relapse, they do one of two things. They relapse really hard and they really F things up quick. Or they very quickly realize that this is all the same old crap. Why am I doing this? And they quit it very soon because they recognize it and they go, this cannot happen again. This is all the same bad feelings. I'm doing this for all the same bad reasons I did it before. I have to quit this immediately. So it's either a deep slide or a quick recovery out of it. That's the patterns I typically see. So Ramon says quitting completely is the best thing. It's just the hardest part. Yes. Alcohol is the most socially acceptable poison. You must remember that everybody wants to offer you alcohol. Here's why everybody wants to offer you alcohol. And this is from, I can't remember the guy, the organization, the guy's name who helps with quitting things. But people want you to join them in their self-poisoning because they know it's not good for them. But they feel better about themselves if you join the poisoning with them. They egg you on and they ask you to drink with them, not because they think it'll be fun. It's because if you're there not drinking, it reflects on them and they feel even worse about themselves. So then the question is, do you go and poison yourself to make them feel better about themselves? Now you got two poisoned people who are both feeling bad about themselves, just trying to numb it with alcohol. It's a very key thing to understand. Is once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. You're just a not drinking alcoholic. And two, that other people, everybody wants you to drink with them so they don't feel bad, because when you're there not drinking, they realize their weaknesses and it makes them feel bad. And if you don't deal with the emotional stuff that's making you want to drink, which part of what, here's the reality, as we get people less toxic, they want less toxins. Birds of a feather flock together, right? Misery loves company. These sayings are there for a reason. The more toxins you put in, the more toxins you want. As you get rid of the toxins, you tend to want less toxins. But the biggest thing is if you've convinced yourself that if you don't drink, you're missing out on something important, you'll always go back to it. So you must convince yourself that the cons way outweigh the pros. And I mean, list the pros of getting drunk. There's not really very many at all, if any. What are the pros of getting drunk? There's not. Come on. Maybe they reduce your inhibitions a bit because they're messing up your brain. The cons of drinking are, just pages. Whether you're talking about health or the risk to your life, your job, your family. Most people, when they want to quit drinking, it's because they did things in their life that they are not proud of and they need to quit. A person I know got 3 DUIs. At what point do you think maybe we shouldn't do this anymore? So, let's see. Are there any more? Oh, Ramon, a super chat just to say I'll give you an alcohol update next week. Thank you. Well, I'd like Ramon. I hope it helps. I'm not trying to lecture. I am a human with weaknesses, just like anybody else out there. Yeah. Absolutely. The tendency to drink alcohol and get stuck on it definitely runs in the family, in my family. Not on my mom's side. Not on my mom's side. But on my father's side, and I definitely take after my father, the tendency towards alcohol. My dad, rest in peace. I remember when I was in my 20s, I remember him leaving the house. This is like so old school. He had like a 1980s Corvette, dark blue. And him and my mom would be going out, to dinner or whatever, meet some friends. And he would leave the house with a White Russian in his hand. He'd be driving with a White Russian in his hand. Like, I'm chuckling at it because it's over. I'm not chuckling at it because it's not okay. Never was okay. I was sitting there even in my early 20s going like, it's hard to tell your dad, be like, Dad, what are you doing? What are you seriously going to leave with an alcoholic drink in your hand? So if, let's say, nature and nurture, if you are raised around alcohol, nature would be genetics. If you have genetically the tendency to fall into alcoholism in your family, what is this probably related to? I think it's probably related to slow ALDH. And then nurture, if you grow up around people drinking and they have the belief that you have to drink alcohol to have fun, you got nature and nurture working against you. It's okay to say, shit, I got a lot of stuff working against me. It's okay to say it's going to be hard. It's okay to say you're like fighting against genetics and everything you learn from your family. And this could just be eating habits, folks. What you were raised on eating, and you're like, God, I got to stop eating all that crap. It makes me feel horrible. But that's what I know. It's not, you don't have to say it's going to be easy. Nobody said anything worthwhile is easy. It's the opposite. Worthwhile things are hard. And they are worth it. So, yeah. Yeah. So let me just double check any more super chats. Let me see. So back to the N Rustica asking about stuff for the alcoholic who quit drinking. They're having trouble absorbing the food that they eat. Get into things, you can soups, very well cooked soups with meat and low vitamin A vegetables. And if you want to go there, beans or the more soluble fiber grains. But again, we don't want to push soluble fiber too hard. So if you're going to make soups, you can make just chicken soup with, really cook the heck out of that chicken. You can decide to leave the chicken in there or not. The chicken meat, not the bones. You could make beef type of soups. You could blend the soups so that it's already pre-chewed and pre-digested. Bananas are going to be, think of foods that are easy to mash up, whether by chewing or if they're soft enough like a banana, your digestive system is going to be able to pound a banana into submission, So you might do stuff like peeled apples made into applesauce, homemade applesauce. You get into kind of like porridges, depending upon what grains were tolerated. If you were going to do, let's say, beans, you're doing stuff like, like mashed beans or like refried beans without lard added. Stuff that is, so you want if you're seeing undigested vegetables in the stool or undigested meat, then you're going to have to help the digestion with either cooking more, cooking longer, cooking harder. No, not higher temperature, cooking things longer at a lower temperature is always better than cooking things shorter at a higher temperature. So, yeah, but if they are the type of alcohol person where they're overweight, they're not going to die of starvation. They got plenty of fat and they will get through this part. Why they're probably feeling so bad is they're dumping bile again and they're dumping alcohol, stored old alcohol and stored old vitamin A and all that stuff into their liver, and they're feeling bad. But yeah, folate, potassium, the other basic minerals we talk about, that stuff. Those would be good basics, in my opinion, if I were in that situation. So, again, okay, so let me see. I hope I didn't miss anything. So, and it's really cool for those of you who, in the live chat. You guys giving Ramon a lot of props and support and all that stuff and prayers and all that. That's awesome. For those of you who don't know, inside the Love Your Liver network, or the Nutrition Detective network, which is where the Love Your Liver program is, it's even more, because everybody in there is really on the same path. It's like I say, I think the Nutrition Detective network, the Love Your Liver program, is kind of what social. It's kind of like a social media, just a private little network. It's what social media should be, where people are supporting each other and working together towards the same goals. Not just everybody being an expert like on Facebook or Twitter. So anyway, I'll see if I can get through a couple of questions quick. Reliable Andrew says, "Hi, Dr. Smith. Any opinions on the use of bovine glandulars, tablets / capsule form, and their potential benefit? Orchic, spleen, thymus, pancreas, heart, etc. Like cures like, they reckon." Let me show you. I'm going to pull it up. I have a thread on Twitter. I have several threads. Thing you must understand is the body often concentrates toxic metals in the organs. Where's my... There it is. I go over multiple different types of organ meats in this thread. I go over multiple different countries. I go over multiple different types of animals. Organ meats are toxin concentrators. Different ones. I forget whether the liver and the kidney, one of them does lead more and one of them does cadmium more. Like they have an affinity for different organs, where the body tries to store them in different organs, probably because it knows certain toxic metals will harm one organ less than the other organ. So they push more of it into that one. And then there's the entire liver thread. Do I use glandulars? Do I recommend them? No. That's the simple answer. None. Zero. Zip. If somebody wanted to use organ meats that are muscles, I'm less against that, but I still don't do it. So what I'm talking about is like if people were eating heart, which is a muscle, or tripe, like the intestines, still think those probably concentrate vitamin A. And if you ever look at most of the hearts that you get, what color is the fat around the heart? It's yellow. Most times it's yellow. So what's that got a lot of in it? Potentially vitamin A, potentially bile in the fat. Organ meats and glandulars, nope. Like cures like. The idea of like cures like would be, it's what that would mean. So if you had proteins coming in from a glandular, what they're saying with the like cures like is, let's say you have a spleen protein, a specific spleen protein, that then is going to be somehow absorbed whole and then magically find its way to the spleen. Well, first of all, it's a cow spleen and not a human spleen, right? Second, the only way that a whole protein would make it into your bloodstream would be if your stomach acid is not doing its job. Your protein enzymes are not doing. They're supposed to break it down into single amino acids and di and tripeptides at least. And then it would mean that a whole protein would have to penetrate your gut lining, which means you have leaky gut. This doesn't sound good, does it? It doesn't. Like, we are supposed to digest proteins and break them down, way down. And then our gut is supposed to prevent whole proteins from getting into the bloodstream. So then the idea of glands helping get into helping the gland, it doesn't make any sense, because they would be destroyed effectively. And then if we're talking about, well, it brings in the nutrients, well, you can get those nutrients from anything. I mean, all sorts of other things. People who sell glandulars are going to disagree with me. I mean, if somebody was undernourished and they ate some glandulars that had the nutrients in it, sure, it might help them, but that's just a nutrient thing, and you could get those nutrients other ways that with less toxins. So no, I don't support those at all. Butch843, anything you can recommend for seasonal allergies? Yes, I can recommend watching the past live streams where we have a seasonal allergies gone testimonial. I would suggest watching the live stream a couple ones ago about the connections between vitamin A and cod liver oil, which is vitamin D too, and seasonal and allergies. What they talk about atopy, which is like allergic reactions, atopic dermatitis, which is allergic skin reactions, about allergies like breathing allergies and asthma. So, yeah, a low vitamin A diet would be the first place to start. Now, that can take a while. So, let me find something that you can try in the meantime. Find it. Come on, computer. So on this page, there are homeopathic combination remedies from a company called Progena. Well, I don't know which one it is, Progena or Allergena. I'll just type it over here. Combination homeopathic remedies. They are made for different areas of the country. They have different zones because there's different allergens in different parts of the country. And these are like, they might be somewhere between 20, 25 bucks, 30 bucks for a bottle to try it. When they work, they really work. Do they work for everybody? No. Do they work if you don't take them? No. Do they work if you take them once? Maybe a little bit for that one time, but then they don't work again. So it is something that if they work, and I tried some with my son the other day, and he's still got allergies because he's still quite toxic. We're working on it. I have to deal with, the other house that he lives at. So the reality of life hits all of us. I had a good talk with him in the car today about that. Anyway, so those remedies, just follow the instructions. They typically say take it 3 times a day. And I do believe they help. It's not like taking an allergy medicine where you just shut it down. If you want to take drugs and have strong drug-like effects and mess up your liver, go take Zyrtec. If you want to mess yourself up long-term and make your problems worse, go take an allergy med. They do work. They also work on your liver. Antihistamines are, what the stuff coming out about antihistamines and brain shrinkage? Like, seriously. Well, what are the antihistamines doing? They're causing liver injury. What are you getting in your blood? Bile. Where's the bile going? Some of it's going to your brain. So, if you have allergies and you push detox too hard, your allergies are going to be freaking nuts. So don't do that. But generally, getting your zinc right over time would be important. Because zinc is kind of the counteractor to vitamin A and vitamin D. Matt Stone of 180 Degree Health, he used to tell me that, like, with his asthma, if he said if he ate junk food, but it was low in vitamin A, his asthma would stay away. But as soon as he ate any dairy or any kind of high vitamin A food, his asthma was right back, and it took 3 days of a low vitamin A diet to get it to go away again. So, like, one of the things my boy, I'm trying to work on him about is dairy, because when I'm not with him, he likes to drink some chocolate milk, which is like the worst thing. That is about the worst combination that he could do, but I don't always have control over him. He's 12. He's going to do what he's going to do, and I got to teach him this. I got to point out when his seasonal allergies act up, hey, what'd you eat or drink today? Because here it is. It's right here, right now. You're feeling it. You're paying the price. So I'm teaching him through his experience rather than just imagine if I just told him you're never drinking this. And then he gets to be an adult. And then I don't have the leash on him anymore. And what's he going to do? He's going to overdo it. Right? So let me see. Just looking for, well, hello, Maggie, and hello, everyone who said hello. Maggie Casman asks, hi, Dr. Smith, what are the root causes of dysphagia? That's a trouble with swallowing. It's probably toxicity. It's probably bile going up into the throat and then causing the throat muscles to not function. Let me just see if there's any easy research on this. Probably won't find anything on it. So, okay. I have been over bile and reflux before, but let's just go into here. American Family Physician article. Gradually progressive dysphagia, reflux, weight loss, and chest discomfort. Oh, that guy's got a bile problem. But I just wanted to read one line out of it. Oh, let's see. It was just one part. Symptoms of gastroesophageal reflux disease. Now, let me just back up one second. Gastroesophageal reflux disease is bile in your stomach causing all the problems. Think about this. Does it make sense that your stomach acid in your stomach, which is designed for stomach acid, does it make sense that stomach acid is causing problems in your stomach? No. What is not supposed to be in your stomach, but comes back up into your stomach? If you have cholestasis, liver injury, bile can come back up into your stomach. You ever hear about people vomiting yellow bile or green bile? Okay. And it tastes bitter. So let's go into this. Symptoms of gastroesophageal reflux disease include heartburn. Oh gosh, bile burning up your esophagus, regurgitation. Oh gosh, vomiting up bile, and dysphagia. Patients have daily episodes of symptomatic reflux, including a sour taste, nighttime coughing, and hoarseness. So dysphagia, what I'm telling you is that bile refluxing up into your stomach is what causes gastroesophageal, gastro being digestive system, gastroesophageal reflux. They just said that reflux can cause dysphagia. That's the connection. And that's why you could hear in those symptoms, like whatever's coming up is just burning and damaging everything it touches. And we've been over how bile even damages the very liver cells that make it. Why do you think your liver has to be able to regenerate so much? Why is the liver the most regenerating organ in the entire body? Because it makes bile. It better be, or else your liver would just like melt from making bile and storing all those toxins. Your liver has to constantly fix itself. So if it puts that toxic bile into places it's really not supposed to go, you get problems. So that would be my theory on dysphagia, is the bile actually what didn't they say in that toxic bile Rockefeller paper? Weren't they talking about paralysis? Right? So what if you get local paralysis of your swallowing muscles? You get dysphagia. And you were saying, what is the root cause of dysphagia when we get old? Accumulated toxicity causing toxic bile leakage into places it's not supposed to be. There's probably calcification going on. Let me just look up dysphagia and calcification. And if I confuse dysphagia with just thinking language disorder, sorry, dysphagia is, I'm thinking of, wait, I'm getting the G and the S. Dysphagia. They are different. I knew that. That's why I was starting to go, am I getting confused here? Dysphagia with a G is difficulty swallowing. Dysphagia with an S is difficulty speaking. So, what I wanted to look at, just to see if there's any calcification. Let's see. No, nothing on calcification on the radiology website. Anyway. Oh, here we go. Dystrophic calcification in the oral cavity resulting in mechanical dysphagia. Here's that one. All these things in the bile, vitamin A, vitamin D supplements, copper, they all tend to cause calcification. Calcification stiffens things. Calcification causes contraction. Calcification stiffens things, makes them not work right. So yeah, dystrophic calcification in the oral cavity resulting in mechanical dysphagia, a case report and review of calcification in the head and neck region. How much calcification does it take to cause this, or to cause you to have difficulty swallowing? Who knows? Now let's just do another one here. I think this may be the last question because yeah, I got to get going. Wait, is that the one? Yes. Here we have another one. Come on. Calcification of the stylohyoid ligament, SHL, is a common condition noted as an incidental finding. Calcification of the stylohyoid ligament is a common condition noted as an incidental finding in routine radiographic examination. Due to proximity with important neurovascular structures, elongation and calcification may sometimes lead to dysphagia and pain. Dysphagia and pain. It's a common condition noted as an incidental, like, oh, we just found it here. It's not doing anything. But then they're saying sometimes it leads to dysphagia and pain. Common condition. Some people get the dysphagia and some people don't. And then the last one, let's see, a rare cause of abnormal epiglottic mobility and dysphagia, calcification of the epiglottis. Gosh, it sure sounds like lots of things can calcify in there. Yeah. So what would we be doing for this? What would I do if I had this problem? Well, I'd be doing all the things that we normally work on with testing. I'd probably be putting topical magnesium over this area multiple times a day to try to start decalcifying it. I'd be fixing vitamin A toxicity. I'd be fixing copper toxicity. I'd be fixing zinc deficiency, selenium deficiency, molybdenum deficiency, potassium deficiency, potentially doing some other things that help with calcification, which are new things that I'm going to be talking about sometime soon in the network. to further accelerate the decalcification process of the body. But it's still, and then we're doing things to get the bile pathway fixed. So the bile is not constantly leaking into places it's not supposed to be, including up your esophagus into your throat. It's not supposed to be there. And when it goes there, it causes damage. Ulcers, like dysphagia, it'll cause, the sour taste, the cough, all that stuff. One thing I might do with a person, one thing I might do if I had this would be potentially gargling with charcoal in water, charcoal in water gargles to soak up the bile back there. I would be trying to gargle that as deep as I could back in there. And I might even be, if I wasn't the constipated type, I might be taking charcoal orally. Because that bile has to come up from somewhere, right? So if you can put charcoal down, it'll just catch it on the way down and send it down. But if you're too constipated, you can't do that. So yeah, we would be attacking this multiple ways. Decalcify it from the outside, soak up the bile that's causing the problem from the inside, not putting in poisons, putting in the right minerals. The concepts are always generally the same. You know what was a funny thing I saw the other day? Somebody on my Twitter was mad at my vitamin D post because I'm trying to get people to not take rat poison. And they said, why don't you tell people that they need to take vitamin K2 and magnesium and selenium so that the vitamin D doesn't cause them calcification problems? And I'm like, we do magnesium, we do selenium. Vitamin K2, we do it when symptoms indicate. People can do it if they want, but we it's always optional. We do it when symptoms indicate. And then we don't take rat poison. And we do things to help raise vitamin D in the system naturally, assuming the body wants to do that. Like, getting magnesium helps raise vitamin D levels, helps prevent calcification. We make sure their zinc levels are right because zinc has been shown to help raise vitamin D levels. And I have the research. I presented that on Twitter in my mega thread on vitamin D. We get sunlight or UVB. We do the things to fix the root cause of the problem without having to take rat poison. So we don't excessively calcify and we get rid of the calcifications. So this is how we do things. That would be the approach. Or as an overall overview, a 40,000 foot view. So that's it for today. Let me just make sure. I don't think I got any more super chats. Oh gosh, Ramon's throwing another one in there. Super chat. Thank you for being here for us every week. You are welcome. I didn't want to miss this week. I've had to really front load my week because I get on the road tomorrow and I can't do my inner circle from elsewhere. I already did my inner circle this week. I've now done this and now it's just finish out the week strong. So I got to get to a client in like 7 minutes. So anyway, thank you all for coming. We're going to have the last live stream, the one where we had the audio difficulties fixed soon and put back up. So it'll be nice and neat. Anyway, thank you for joining us. nutritiondetective.com. I'm Dr. Garrett Smith. Thank you for joining us for the Love Your Liver live stream. And we will see you next week. Bye now.